Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for our preview and predicted 11 and all sorts of Chelsea news live stream ahead of Chelsea versus Arsenal in the Premier League taking place tomorrow night at Stamford Bridge. And there is actually so many things to get to. I've also, just as we went live, been reminded by Cranky Pants here that we completely forgot a rating for Tuchel and performance last time out in the last Player Ratings live stream after Crystal Palace. But the stream was already an hour 50 long. I had an exploding headache. So I was like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, appreciate you for reminding me of that. Even if in hindsight, Cranky Pants, I'll make sure it does not happen again. But yeah, lots to get through today. News on potential director of football of Chelsea. Rudiger's future could apparently be decided upon very, very soon. Ben Chilwell's return to training, which is highly anticipated. Is it? But it's anticipated, shall we say. Mateo Kovacic's injury. So many things to get through. And then, of course, focusing on Chelsea versus Arsenal tomorrow. Now, before all of that, let me introduce my wonderful, wonderful guests. And why not? I feel like I don't usually start with Con. So, Con, why don't I start with you today? Thank you for coming on, as always, my man. How are you feeling ahead of tomorrow? Arsenal is really annoying because the worse their form is, the more likely they are to beat us, usually. While, remember back in the days when we always took the piss out of them for always coming fourth. We beat them every year, I swear. But as soon as they started coming 6th and 7th and 8th, sometimes we lose to them. So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, bro. We're very charity FC sometimes when it comes to Arsenal. I still remember that Boxing Day game, man. That put me into depression, bro. I'm not going to lie. I was so moody for like a week. I didn't want to talk to no one, but I'm confident, bro. I don't really believe in the superstitious nonsense that some people get. If we perform like we have against Palace, against Southampton, against Real Madrid, we're getting 3 points. It's as simple as that. And if we perform like we did against Brentford, we're losing. So, it's all on us. It's not on Arsenal. Arsenal can play their very best, but if we're at our very best, we win. So it's just on us tomorrow. If we turn up, we turn up. If we don't, we don't.
Very true. Although if neither of us turn up, we probably still win. So, we have a tad of an advantage, I guess, in that sense, just by being better, having a better manager. And being at home, although it is actually, I thought the first time this happened was against Brentford, but I was corrected in hindsight after I said that on a stream, I think, at the time. Tomorrow against Arsenal will be the first game that sanctions against Roman Abramovich will actually affect the turn up of people, of fans at Stamford Bridge. Of course, it affected us away at Middlesbrough in the FA Cup when we weren't allowed to sell tickets other than to the people on the away scheme who had already purchased their tickets. But Arsenal will actually be the first game where there will only be 25 to 28-ish thousand people or Chelsea fans present, which are all season ticket holders, but the away end will still be full from Arsenal. So yeah, well done, UK government, stopping Chelsea fans from going to a Premier League home game. That will stop the war. And also, it's fine that they all went to the FA Cup game on Sunday. That is the most illogical decision of anything I've ever heard. But hey, it's unfortunate. So the players need to turn up that extra bit more because there's less fans in the ground. But Pyth, thank you for coming as well. I presume you agree with myself that that's absolutely ridiculous from the government. But feeling ahead of tomorrow, we are so far clear of Arsenal in every sense of the word. But in a stupid way, they're still kind of a bogey team for us. Maybe it's not even true. Maybe that's just how I feel.
You're right. I always feel like Arsenal and Manchester United are the two teams that I always... yeah, but the two bigger teams that we usually go into games like, oh yeah, we'll beat them, and we never do is Arsenal, Man United. Obviously, we beat Arsenal away this season, but I don't know, like, it just overall, those two teams kind of scare me, and Arsenal do scare me tomorrow because they've lost 3 on the bounce. We're tired. We've played a lot of games this season. And I don't know, they could come and turn us over. But I hope not. I hope we turn up. I agree with Con. I mean, if we turn up, if we play even half decent, I think we get a result. So, yeah, I mean, they're not in good form. We've got to take advantage of that rather than being charity FC as we actually are proven to be known. It's not just a saying. There's been so many occasions where teams have lost 4 or drawn 3 in a row and then they come and somehow beat us. So let's not make that happen tomorrow night, please, Chelsea.
Exactly. And just, if anyone wasn't clear, we're also not happy with the draw. So, let's get that done because we need to shut them up. I mean, to be fair, they kind of got themselves shut up with their last 3 performances, I will say. But, they will come out of their little holes if they do get a result, even a draw against us tomorrow. Remember how they're still celebrating Martinelli's equaliser from 3 years ago. They will come out of their little holes, even if they get a draw. So we need to make sure we absolutely slap them up. Well, slap them up, I don't care if it's 1-0 or 7-0. Better if it's 7-0, sure. But I'm fine if it's 1-0. But we just need to shut them up. That's very, very important. Clutch, thank you for joining us as well. Similar thoughts to the boys later tomorrow? Or, I see, it's more similar to myself or with the boys, because I'm not sure how confident I am, just because a couple of injuries that we have and tired legs that we have, and I feel like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely get that point, but I agree with the boys. You know, Arsenal's the team I hate the most on this planet. I cannot stand them. Their fans are arrogant. Their team is terrible. I hate every one of the players pretty much. I respect Saka, but, you know, it is what it is. For me, I think it's like the boy said. If we play the way we know we can, we get a result, no matter who's out there. I mean, it's just, if we play and we don't execute the game plan like we normally do, we will go out there and lose. But I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're starting to see them all kind of jump onto the plan again, and we're putting the rails back on. So for me, it's just, we go out there and play, we'll be fine. If we go out there and we let Arsenal do what they want, we're not going to be fine. I mean, they have Ben White as their best defender.
Ben White. The man spends more time in a solarium than he does on a training pitch. Like, have you seen how tanned he is? He lives in England. That does not work. Like, stop going to the solarium. You will just get yourself cancer. Do you know what I mean? Poor guy. But, I mean, I was going to try to pronounce your name. I'm just going to call you Pandit. I say we go and smash them like we did in 2014 6-0. Now, wouldn't that be lovely? I still cannot. I almost can't fathom the fact that we beat Arsenal 6-0 in Arsene Wenger's 1,000th game as Arsenal manager. Like, that's hilarious. You know how funny that is? With Jose Mourinho in charge at the same time as well. Absolutely hilarious. But yeah, please no Charity FC tomorrow. Please, please, please. Pice, like I said, we will start with the kind of the news around the takeover and stuff. I have one question for you. Obviously, it was said that the decision by Reign will be put to the government, as far as I'm aware, in the week of the 18th of April. Isn't that what they said? Yesterday was the 18th of April. So what is the situation? Can we expect like a decision by tomorrow, by next week, or what's that situation? Because I saw last Friday when it came out that the Ricketts had pulled out. The other, or it was reported at least, that the other candidates, the other still remaining bidders in the shortlist, were expecting to know where they are on the weekend. Obviously, they might know, and it might just not be public information. But it's now Tuesday the 19th, and we don't really know any more than we did on Saturday, do we?
No, we don't. You're right. The week of April 18th, which is this week, was the original kind of information that was leaked to the media. Then the Athletic did a report about Rudiger today, and they stated in that obviously there's a real danger that a announcement could actually be made in May, which is like what, 2-3 weeks away. So I mean, I don't know why it's taking this long, or 2 weeks. I mean, to be fair, like, I feel like that could just be covering the worst possible scenario. Like, I feel like we'll get something this week or next week. I'm still expecting late this week because, as well, if everything's to be believed in the media, like Todd Bowley and the Ricketts were the favourites. Well, Ricketts is out, so then just give it to Bowley, right? If it was that serious that they were two absolute front runners. I mean, another thing I read from Sky News was that the Reign are currently, or might be currently going to the Premier League to get approval for the bidder before they actually announce it. And that obviously takes like quite a few time, because that's essentially them doing the test. And then when it's actually announced in May, that they might be ready just to take over because they're doing the test now. That may be a possible scenario. So I don't know. It's quite up in the air. We've been hearing a lot of different things. I think it's just a case of one of those where it will just be I'm expecting it just to be a dull day, one day in the next 2 weeks, and then bang, it will just come out and it will just explode again. That's what usually happens with Chelsea.
It's true. Now, I mean, I'm not basing this on any sort of facts. This is just how I think things usually tend to go at Chelsea. I feel like we'll know at some point within the next 2 weeks who it will be. But then an official announcement, I would say within the next 10 days, maybe a week, we'll know like from the media, that's who it's going to be. And then an official announcement from Chelsea will be like maybe another week after that, because how often do we know we're signing? Like, how long before we officially announced Havertz did we all know we're signing Havertz? Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel like that's going to go. Big up Lewis, and big up CFC's dead. I mean, we're not, but big up you anyway. Lewis Raid, I love that. Hello, Taha. Hello, everybody that's joining. But yeah, that's how I feel it's going to go. But obviously, we don't know for sure. Just to add something, now Stephen Pagliuca, of course, who is still for some reason on the short list. Obviously, he owns 55% of Atalanta Bergamo in Serie A, and only acquired that stake back in January, as far as I'm aware. But for some odd reason, even some guy at Atalanta said, "Yeah, well, maybe we can, take advantage of that if Pagliuca is to buy Chelsea as well." Which, I mean, I'm sure it can be an advantage for them. It could also really be a big advantage for us. But as far as I was aware, UEFA rules stop us from doing that. But obviously, Red Bull exists. So maybe UEFA just don't give a shit about those rules. I'm not sure, because, I mean, Jeste was, by the way, big up Jeste. I'm not sure if you're still here. But he kind of tweeted me kind of the exact extract of the UEFA rules, what is and what isn't allowed type thing, or what isn't allowed rather. And by what that said, the whole Red Bull thing shouldn't be allowed either. And it is. So, maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But on that very note, it was also reported, Pice, that, and I'll get to the other boys very, very shortly. I just want to get kind of the news bit out of the way before I can kind of open it just for opinions, if that makes sense. It was also reported that, two of the bidders are also trying to get a director of football in the name of, what's his name now? I forgot. Paul Mitchell?
Paul Mitchell. Yeah.
There you go. Of Paul Mitchell, who is currently director of football at Monaco, previously at Tottenham, Southampton, and RB Leipzig, as I found out, which I had no idea about. But yeah, so that's interesting. Now, Pice told me he's one of the two more respected directors of football out there. So that's good in and of itself. It still hasn't, the report didn't say that that's kind of in to replace Marina, which wouldn't make sense anyway, because it's not the job of a director of football what Marina does. But yeah, did I hit everything on the head there, or is add anything I haven't, basically?
Yeah, I would also add probably Luis Campos. I seem to forget him. He's obviously very, very good, working in boards and stuff, but I don't know what he's doing now. Yeah, I actually listened. So Ornstein obviously was the one that came out with the news. He wrote a Monday column, and he also does a podcast kind of going over his Monday column in a little bit more detail. He basically said that it's to fill the role that Emanalo did, and currently Marina is doing that role essentially, and that there would
alongside her own role, right? Not just Emanalo's role, because I mean,
she's doing day-to-day operations, obviously the contract signings. She's doing literally everything, is what Ornstein was saying, and there is doubts, according to Ornstein, that she would want to carry on if she wasn't continuing to do the player recruitment side of things. So we do have to watch that. And he also said that Paul Mitchell has been a key driver in Monaco's culture, improved injury record, which was something interesting because I didn't know they covered that side. Apparently they're responsible for overseeing fitness as well, which I didn't know. Recruitment, sales, style of play, finances and contracts. And two of Chelsea's bidders have extremely high admiration for him. They are watching his moves. He did have a meeting, I think, with one of the Monaco, I don't know if it was the owner or something recently, where they kind of said, look, we want you to stay and stuff, but it's not set on and nailed that he's staying, basically. So I thought it was interesting that Ornstein didn't give off the impression that they would work together. It would either be Marina or Mitchell. Okay. I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, we'll have to see.
We will have to wait and see. Now, Clutch, let me put it to you. Thoughts on a director of football coming in? Obviously, we don't know. Would that be instead of Marina? Would it not? I'm not obviously Ornstein said what he said now, but obviously I'm sure things will change drastically by the time we get to that point, because for the time being, we don't even have the takeover done and dusted. But in general, is that something, you're looking for? I mean, Jester puts it there. Monaco is where he's at. Well, we are quite interested in a certain Mr. Tchouaméni, who, of course, has links to Real Madrid as well now. But if getting Mitchell can help us get Tchouaméni as well, that's just another positive, really, isn't it? Even though, of course, there is also Michael Edwards, formerly of Liverpool, out there for said role.
Yeah, I think I think we do need a director of football. I mean, as much as I love the negotiation side of Marina, I think we need somebody who's going to look at the direction that Tuchel wants to take the team and focus on communicating with him, like the type of scouting we need, what players we need to put in what positions. Because, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, Lukaku was a fail, unfortunately for us. He's just not the style of player that we needed for the team that we're trying to build. And we need somebody who's going to come in and say, are you sure this is what you want? Instead of just like, hey, this is what you can get. You want just to get this guy? And I think we need somebody who's going to have that kind of direction, who's going to look into scouting a little bit better. Because, I mean, that's one thing we're really lacking right now is we're lacking in the scouting department. Are we going to have a 100% record on scouting all the time? No, it's not going to be that way. But you still need to have better recruitment because, I mean, we're in the position we are where we have Ross Barkley on the books. We still have Bakayoko on the books. We still have Baba Rahman on the books. Kennedy, Emerson, Alonso, all these guys we still have on the books that they're not looking for the future of this club. So for me, I think the director of football will kind of start directing us away from that path and down to a path that we can kind of see long-term success to where we want to be, which is at the end of the day.
If it's a good director of football, yeah.
Yeah, if it's a good one. But, I mean, there's no guarantee no matter who it is on that.
Unfortunately, true. Paul Vix, not sure how you want that name to be pronounced. Was Paul Mitchell the one to sign Mbappe for Monaco? I would highly doubt that because as far as I'm aware, at that time, he was probably still at Spurs. I don't think it's long enough ago for him to have been at Southampton. So I think he would have
Monaco in 2020, so no.
What?
Oh, Mitchell joined
Monaco in 2020.
No, Mitchell joined Monaco in 2020.
Okay. I was like, yeah, well, there you go. 2020. Con, thoughts on that director of football reports? Is that something you'd be a fan of? Would you say it's better if we keep the structure as it is? I doubt you're going to say that, but
yeah, something needs to change a little bit. But I do think fans sometimes are too harsh on our board. We have been quite successful over the last decade, you know. I know people like to point out your Lukaku's, your Alonso's and stuff like that, but Alonso won a Premier League here, you know, and he at one point we was calling him the best left wing back in the country.
Alonso wasn't a bad signing. Alonso just stayed too long.
And if you look at it, like Ziyech and Timo Werner, right, for Lampard, they were good signings for Lampard. You know, you could see what he was trying to do there with that 4-3-3 with Ziyech with them back home, post crosses into Timo Werner. So they made sense, innit? The problem really with the scouting, I'd say, just because we don't keep a manager for long term. So then you're getting players for a certain system like Jorginho, you know, and you move that manager on, you get another one that don't really fit their ideas. So that's the problem. We need more, I don't know, believing in the manager a little bit longer, maybe at this club. Hopefully we've got that with Tuchel now. But a director for football would be nice. I've seen a lot about this guy as well. Like he was the guy who found like out the Fireworld for Tonga and stuff like that. Heung-min Song. So like he's got a really good track record. But like you said, it has to be a good one. You know, we can't just get any director of football, you know, because otherwise in a couple of years' time, we'll be like, we want this guy out, he's crap. So
exactly. I mean, mind you, we're now saying, Emanalo. Remember, think back to when that happened. The whole social media thing was Emanalo out. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes, exactly that. And that's the thing with the Chelsea fan base, though. Like, we like to scapegoat, you know?
Yeah, and then we realised, shit, it wasn't their fault. They tried to scapegoat the next person.
Exactly, bro. Yeah. But if it's a good one, bro, like this guy, because I've seen the players he's sort of been involved in getting, and the fitness side, I didn't even know they played a part in that. So thanks for sharing that. So yeah, if it's the right man, I'm all ears for it, you know.
There you go. Although I would say I don't know this, but just because of how Chelsea is run, I don't think Mitchell, if he were to come to Chelsea, would have quite the same influence and power and control over so many things as he does at Monaco. Monaco is a very different, like their stadium hosts like 10,000 people. It's a very different situation to Chelsea Football Club. He might have that at Monaco, and that might be why he would maybe prefer to stay at Monaco, because I very much doubt we would give him all that say. Because you have that much say, and then that goes wrong, you ruin everything. Obviously, if it goes right, brilliant. But if it doesn't, you need to have more control. And I don't think it's good to give so much control to the one and the same person. That would be a bad idea, in my opinion. Because, I mean, sure, this season we've had a few problems with injuries, sure. But over the years, I don't think you can say we have particular problems with our fitness department. So it's not like, you need Paul Mitchell to fix our fitness department. Do you know what I mean? And also like contracts and stuff. I mean, negotiate in terms of convincing players to stay, sure. But in terms of the business side of things, if you're a director of football, be a director of football, if that makes sense. Clutch just put something in here saying Mitch is responsible for Nathaniel Klein, Maya Yoshida. I mean, these two don't particularly impress me, I can't say. Paolo Gazzaniga.
Klein was brilliant for them, by the way. And so was Yoshida.
Yeah,
they were good.
I mean,
they were good buys,
level,
bro.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. Like, I think those are very,
it's
very
not
good,
like he didn't find
signings.
the superstars of the future. Do you know what I mean? By those two.
No, but they were still really good.
Let's be real though. That Nathaniel Klein signing, he was a known player. It was an obvious sort of signing,
Where did they sign him from?
Southampton, wasn't it?
No, I think he brought him to Southampton. I think that's what I was saying.
Oh, okay, then it's a different story. My bad.
Yeah.
Fair dues. He also says Paolo Gazzaniga. I think the goalkeeper that booted Alonso in the face. Is that him?
It was, yeah.
Stephen Davies, Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, Kieran Trippier, Toby Alderweireld, Emil Smith-Rowe on loan at Leipzig. Didn't even know Emil Smith-Rowe was on loan at Leipzig. But hey, well, these are interesting things. Sure, Sadio Mane, he brought him to Southampton. I said that to Pice in our group chat as well, though. I mean, he was at Salzburg and he was scoring 30 goals a season. I feel like any idiot would have known about him at that time. The impressive thing was convincing him to go to Southampton over other teams. That's fair enough. Same as with Son going to Spurs rather than anybody else. I mean, he got him from Leverkusen. It's not like he was hidden in some sort of African third division. Do you know what I mean? Or South Korean, more likely, considering Heung-min Son is South Korean. But yeah. Now shall we move on to slightly other news, but still news. That's the last bit of news, guys. Antonio Rudiger, you mentioned it there in terms of in which article The Athletic talked about also the possible owner announcement. But it was said that Antonio Rudiger wants to decide upon his future by the end of the month, which is a bit mental because that's within 11 days and we might not know who our new owner is, which that in and of itself sounds a bit scary. But everything else they said, as far as I'm aware, I didn't have time to read the whole thing, so that's why we have you, Pies. But everything else that I read about it seems to suggest that he basically wants to stay and it's just need to get the takeover done to get him to stay, as long as we give him at least close to enough money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just this Athletic article. I mean, Simon Johnson has been covering this Rudiger situation for months, and in every single one, he's always said he wanted to stay. Apart from, I think, there was a time which he did say in this article, he decided to leave at some certain point, but after that, it started to become he wants to stay. It was all about money at that case. So yeah, he said basically Rudiger's been speaking to people at the club. He's very settled. His family are here. His kids have grown up in England. It's become home for them. What else did he say? Just that he's happy here, but it's kind of that the end of the month thing is kind of scary. Obviously, he's got a very good relationship with Thomas Tuchel. He did mention as well that if there's any manager or if there's anyone that could convince Rudiger to wait a little bit longer, it will be Thomas Tuchel in terms of the deadline he set. But he kind of did say that if Rudiger sticks to the deadline like he has done with everything else, then could be bad news because the owner might not even be announced and they might not prioritize him. There's no guarantee that they'll prioritize Rudiger like the fans want them to, basically, is what he was saying, which is a bit strange because I think anyone with a brain needs to sign Rudiger up. So, yeah, look, we'll see. Most of it was positive, but yeah, the fact that he's stuck a deadline on the end of this month, I mean, fair enough. I can't really blame him, to be honest. He's been waiting for ages to get the money that actually deserves. Not that he wants, he deserves this money. Obviously, some of it is our fault, a lot of it is, and then obviously it got, halted because of the Abramovich situation. So, yeah, I don't really know what to think. I mean, the underlying details are positive, but the big message is that he set a deadline. And he's, while there may be an opportunity for Tuchel to convince him to wait longer, it's not guaranteed. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of slightly pessimistic, I suppose.
Okay. I mean, for me to twist this into a more positive, not sure if that's reality, but that's how I'm going to try to give this a positive spin, is while the new owners might not be announced and officially sealed by maybe, if bad comes to worse, the end of the month, which is when Rudiger wants to decide, they might they might know earlier. Then it might just be a case of waiting for the Premier League fit for purpose test to be done and everything else and everything to like get over the line. But once we're in that position where one group, ideally Bowley, knows that it's going to be them, they can probably already. I mean, I say they can probably. They can already talk to Rudiger and say, by the way, lads, we're going to be the ones taking over Chelsea. We can't yet because it's not all done yet, but we will offer you this and this money. And it's just stay, because what the deadline says, it's not he wants to have something signed by the end of the month. He just said he wants to make the decision by the end of the month. A decision doesn't mean signing something. He can just say, okay, they've given me something I'm happy with, I'll stay. And maybe it takes another couple of weeks until they, because of the Roman situation and takeover situation, until they can actually put that contract in front of me and I can sign it. So that's how I think that there is still a positive and there's still a comfortable possibility of him staying and that deadline not actually being that dramatic. Con, do you see that positive spin on it as well, or do you think it's bad news?
Sorry, what was that, bro? I was just watching these Bundesliga highlights in my bad, bro.
At least he's honest about it. No, how Pai said basically, Rudiger, he set a deadline at the end of the month. Is that a problem? And I was like, well, you might have set a deadline, but a deadline to decide rather than a deadline to have signed something. So, if Bowley by the end, even if they aren't officially announced, if they know it's going to be them, they just need to wait for everything, for the whole process, because the whole process takes time, even if you know it's happening. It's like when you order a couch. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes a couch takes like 5 months or 2 months at least to be delivered. But you already know you're getting your couch. Do you know what I mean? So then you can already plan your living room to have that couch. Do you know? That's what I mean. They can say to Rudiger, well, once we have this couch, we will offer you this and this contract. Do you know what I mean?
Love that example, bro. I've got a phone call coming through to my laptop. 1 second. Just cancel that. No, yeah, I think Rudiger wants to be here. If you just look at how he performs on the pitch, how he is with the fans, he wants to be here, man. Like, I know he wants to stay. And if we can get a deal agreed in principle with him, because that's what it's going to need to be, then, I'm still hopeful, man. Like, with the deadline thing, it's just this process needs to hurry up, man. If this thing was done, if Rain actually were competent at doing this, man, like, we wouldn't even have this conversation. You probably would have agreed a deal, So, in my eyes, if he doesn't sign it's on Rain, because this process just took too long. But like you said, if we can get like Bowley and whoever it is, and they know it's going to be them, they can talk to Rudiger and make it official when they're actually coming. Get that deal agreed in principle, innit?
There you go. That's how I see it as well. And hopefully they'll go that way. I mean, I'm hesitant still to like criticize. I mean, I'm always hesitant to criticize individuals where I don't know the situation. Like, I'm happy to criticize footballers on the pitch, right? Because I see what they're doing. Like, when people say I have an agenda against Timo Werner. But I'm a lot more hesitant to criticize whether it's Marino or whether it's someone like Rain, because I don't know if they are actually doing a good job or not. I don't know if it could be quicker. I don't know any better. I mean, Con might be right, but he might not. And that's why I try to hold off it a bit. No problem with Con obviously not doing so. But Clutch, similar thoughts to myself and Con trying to take a positive spin of that situation with Rudiger, or does it concern you?
I think I've seen a story today where they were talking about how he's hearing fans in the stadium cheering more and more for him, which is making him want to stay more and more, which is excellent, because he's one of those players we need to keep here. With the story of Haaland signing for City today, we're going to need one of those center backs that is like Rudiger, who has that ability.
We'll see. Maybe that will go like Lukaku to us, and they will actually get worse.
It could happen. I don't trust Pep to do that,
with a striker. All of a sudden, they have to completely change the system. They haven't played with a proper striker. I mean, Aguero, sure, but Aguero is not a Haaland striker. So, like, they haven't played with a Haaland striker ever, basically. So, Pep Guardiola hasn't played with a Haaland-type striker since Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Maybe Lewandowski, but even Lewandowski was a bit different.
No, but I still trust KDB to figure it out. I mean, he's one of the most brilliant passing midfielders I've ever seen. But yeah, I think we need to sign Rudiger, and it needs to happen quickly. I do think he wants to stay. I don't think he wants to go somewhere else. I mean, we also seen today how Real said they want to replace somebody and as the captain, was it him? Somebody wanted to replace Rudiger and make him and bring him. Oh no, it was Manchester United. That's who I see. And United wanted to replace Harry Maguire.
Want to do a lot of things, They also want to finish top 4, and they're not doing that either. So
yeah, there's a lot of eyes on Rudiger right now, and I think one of our main priorities is locking him up and then going to see what we can do after that.
There you go, Pice. Just as all of us three have tried to take a positive spin on it, is that a way you can look at it as well, or do you still reckon it's more of a bad thing, this news that we got today, than a good thing?
I mean, I can look at it that way. Do I want to look at it that way? Yes and no, because no more often than not, because I don't know, if I convince myself that he's staying and that it will get sorted out and he doesn't stay, I'm going to be gutted. So, I mean, the longer it's gone on, I've just kind of thought that he'll probably leave, and I've kind of had that stance for ages now. I feel like there's a lot of things that could make him stay. Like, obviously, another thing that I didn't mention was that Rudiger has been noticing that the fans have been singing his name a lot more, and he's really appreciating that. So he's got everything here. It's just, will the money be put on the table, and can it be done in time? Because I don't know. I don't really see Rudiger as a person that's going to flitter about too much. If he's set a deadline, I think that means that's his deadline. Like, he's had enough of waiting now. So,
but he knows we can't control that. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know, but like,
that's why I don't think he'll be.
Then from his point, you're kind of like, well, why didn't you sort it out like before this happened? You know what I mean? Like,
they can't change that now.
No, I know they can't, but it's like, well,
especially considering it's going to be new owners who have even less to blame for what happened before, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I still think it's like 50-50 personally. Even though we heard these positive things today, I don't know. Something's not right about it.
Okay, fair. I mean, I'll remain optimistic. I do think Antonio Rudiger will stay in the end. Hopefully, once everything's done, we just give him enough money. That's the only minor concern I have. That once the new ownership is done, they will offer him a contract, but he will be like, so this is what I'm waiting for all this time for you to offer me this crap. And then you know how he was initially offered 140, and then what did they go up to like around January, Christmas time? What was it? 170, 180,
170, I believe. Yeah, and he wants 200.
Exactly, and maybe if they go up to 180, and it's like, really, this is what I waited for you to go up for like 10k now. So that's my main fear. I don't think it's going to be a case of if the takeover isn't done that he will say, get lost. I think he will be intelligent enough to know that this process takes a little bit of time. This is not a process anyone necessarily saw coming. And if he does want to stay, I don't think he will jump the gun before the takeover is done. I personally believe that. And yeah, like you guys say, obviously the fans chanting his name, but not just in the stadium. I think also, like, how many clips have we seen? I'm sure you guys have seen them as well. Of them, the team going to the team bus, or when they're strolling around in whatever city we play in on the day, and fans keep shouting at him, sign the contract and stuff. I'm sure those things do mean a lot to you because you feel wanted, and probably most human beings want to feel wanted by whoever it is, whether it's fans, whether it's, I don't know, friends, partners. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'm sure that can have a positive impact. I took this as slightly more positive news. Pies took it as slightly more negative news. So whichever way you look at it, more or now negative news. Mateo Kovacic, as confirmed by Thomas Tuchel. Someone asked in the chat earlier, is this official? Yes, it is. Thomas Tuchel has confirmed in the press conference that Mateo Kovacic suffered a ligament injury, but it actually sounds worse than it apparently is, because it should be an injury that shouldn't keep him out for too much more than 2 weeks. That's what Thomas Tuchel said. Obviously, we have the FA Cup final in just under a month on May 14th. By the way, I hate this so much that the FA Cup final is before the last Premier League game. Stupid. Do it after. Really annoys me. But anyway, because then it's at least a little bit of a domestic climax. Do you know what I mean? I feel. I mean, obviously, teams that might not be involved in the final might feel differently. But do you know what I mean? At least a final, a last thing is, I think that's a good time to end it, rather than to say, last Premier League day. Well, I guess the Premier League title race is exciting, I guess, so maybe that's why. But anyway, Mateo Kovacic's injury, I just hope he's back for Liverpool. If it takes him 3 weeks, I don't care. Just be back for Liverpool. But Con, what's your thoughts on that? Injury is a problem, because now what the hell do we do with with the midfield, especially as Thomas Tuchel said, he still thinks Jorginho is overplayed. That means we have Ruben, who we don't want to be the one that sits, and Kante. And Saul, obviously. But, do you know what I mean? That's not ideal, is it? Poor Kovacic. Kovacic is another player, unfortunately, that we need to realise is a lot more injury-prone than people accept he is. Like, he gets injured a lot. How many injuries has he had this season? Like 5, 6? I swear, it's a load. Not huge ones, but loads.
See, bro, this is why, do you know when you always see them debates on Twitter, right? And they're like, oh, we should sell Jorginho or sell Kante and bring in this player. We can't just replace, we need to add. You know, because if we sell Kante or Jorginho, bro, and then Kovacic gets injured, you know, if Kante's still here, he gets injured, we're going to be in the same position like we are right now. Like, who do we play? You know, we got one midfielder who's played way too much, been running into the ground, hence why I think he's form dipped. But context don't matter in football, so we won't talk too much about that. Kovacic, you're right, he gets injured a lot. Every season, bro, he always gets like an injury that lasts longer than a month, at least. And then he gets these little niggly ones just because how he plays.
They always said, I'll be back in 2-3 weeks, and then it's a month, 6 weeks every time.
Yeah, it's annoying. But Loftus-Cheek, man, he's coming into his own. I don't really want him playing there, but do I trust him doing the job for a few games? Yeah. I think he's getting that confidence, man. And with Loftus-Cheek, bro, it's always been on him. He has the ability, he has the talent, you know. It's just on him. Ideally, I don't want him there, but if it has to be Loftus-Cheek, it has to be. And he's in good form right now, man. If it's going to be any time for Loftus-Cheek,
I love both, I guess, and I know you love Jorginho yourself, Con. But I feel like right now, I'd probably trust Ruben in that role more than Georgie, if I'm honest.
I don't know if I would, because I watched the Palace game, right, and people were telling me like Jorginho was like really bad, and I just couldn't get my head around it. Agendas stink, honestly. Don't get me wrong. First half, it was really bad. But at the end of the day, I can show you multiple examples of Reece James, Mason Mount, other players of not passing that ball through to Werner and passing sideways. It wasn't just a Jorginho thing. That's why I just didn't get. It's like, cool, if you want to say Jorginho, but I don't know why that was the emphasis of that game. Was Jorginho was really bad first half. But anyway, but in the second half, it was fantastic. I completely agree.
I also think, I mean, you weren't on the stream, but the boys rated Timo Werner way too highly. I mean, everyone slated me for saying that. All the forwards are way too high. I wanted to give them all a 4 because I thought them all shit. But you know, but hey, what I meant by trusting him more is just Georgie seems just that little bit slow, and because he's as weak as he is, when you're too slow, it's too easy to get the ball off him. When Ruben is slow, he's at least massive. So he can still shield the ball. That's what I meant by trusting him more. I'm not saying that he necessarily will play better in terms of controlling the game and playing forward pass. That's not necessarily what I meant. But in terms of being dispossessed in bad situations, that's why I trust him more.
But the thing is, I want to see Loftus-Cheek play with Jorginho again, because that in the second half, you see that change Tuchel did, where he had like Jorginho as that sort of lone pivot, and then he had Loftus and sort of Mount in front of him. And it worked really, really well because Georgie had that time on the ball to pick out, spray the passes, and up the tempo a little bit. So I want to see them both together. That Jorginho and Loftus, I like it. And if Tuchel can do the same thing he did in the second half versus Palace, it'd be really good.
That is a fair shout as well, to be fair. It's just, obviously Palace, that's what they said after the game. They obviously had that plan. They matched us information. As Tuchel kept saying after the game, they expected a back 4 from Palace. They played in a back 5 or 3 instead, more of a back 5, obviously. And they knew we were going to have a double pivot, and they were trying to take us out of the game. Then once we switched formation a little bit, also kind of added Reece James as a kind of half-second double pivot player to still give us that outlet, but have more players kind of between the lines. That made things easier for Georgie. But if Arsenal expect that and then they single him out, that could be the kind of problems that he had on a Lampard sometimes when he played as a single 6. So that's,
of course, bro. But the difference, the big difference there, though, bro, is Lampard. When Tuchel sees something in game, he will make tactical tweaks, you know. And I trust it. You know, I trust Georgie. I always have, and I always will. I love the guy. I'll get a lot of people get onto me for how much I love him, but that'll never change. I love him, just like you with Loftus, bro. If he's sinking in the ship, I'm sinking with him. You know.
There you go. But hopefully we all got swim vests. But Clutch, what's your thoughts on the Kovacic injury situation? Do you think he's injury prone? Would you class him as that? And what do we do in midfield? And obviously we'll get to line up tomorrow a little bit later, but it's a bit of a problem.
Is he injury prone? I'd say borderline. I wouldn't say quite there yet. I mean, there has been quite a few times, especially this season, when he's not been available, but I still think Kante is unavailable even more. At least towards the beginning of the season, Kante was out every other game. He could play 2 games in a row without having to go out.
But it's not a competition of who's more injured.
Oh, I know.
Both.
I know. I think it's that perspective, because we have a lot of players like that, to be honest, that end up that way. But I think
Reece James, unfortunately, is another one.
Reece James, Ziyech. I mean, the list can go on. Pulisic in past. I think it is worrying because Kovacic has been our best midfielder this season. I think he kind of seen both Georgie and Kante both being up in the top 5. Both had it for Ballon d'Or voting. So I think it shows the levels that Kovacic is actually going out. Yesterday, somebody said they didn't see Kovacic as a competent 8, and it blows my mind. Who is one of our most...
Actually, Nini say that in the end, or was it somebody else?
It was somebody else. It wasn't Nini. It was somebody else. It was one of his cohorts, I guess. I don't know. But he's probably been our most progressive midfielder this year. Things happen when he's on the field. So it is very worrying that we don't have him. But as long as he's back before the Liverpool game, which is our main focus at the moment, other than just kind of securing top 4, I think it's going to be... I think we can handle it. Ruben's coming into some form now, so I think we do have it. Saul was in good form before he dropped off wherever we just left him at, and I think he's still in Atletico somewhere. But I think we'll be fine in the midfield. As long as we don't play Kante as an 8, I'll be fine.
As long as we don't play Kante as an 8, we'll be fine. Now, Pice has just put in the private chat that Mateo Kovacic just had just one injury this season. Well, but bro, that's clearly not true. I know you probably checked transfer market, but that's just a lie. He literally came off injured against Lille and missed the game after that, and they're not even mentioning it.
Yeah, according to them, it says he's had one injury.
Yeah. No, I know, but he came off with an ankle injury that game, then missed one game, played again, but then was only in and out of the squad since then. And Ruben even said after the game, the Kovacic was feeling his ankle, so he had to be ready to come on. So that sounded to me that Kovacic already had ankle problems before and then just made them worse in the game. Maybe I'm misinterpreting what Ruben said there, but that's what it sounded like to me.
That's weird then, because it said he missed 7 games this season with one injury, abductor problems, and then he had coronavirus.
Yeah, no, I know. Like I said, he clearly says that, but I'm sure you remember him coming off injured against Lille in the home game.
Wait, I don't remember what happened yesterday, to be honest, so no.
You remember when we had Ziyech and Kovacic come off injured both in the same game?
We're talking about away or at home?
No, at home, in the first leg.
At home. No, I don't remember, but I trust you. I mean, it's just weird.
If you want to go back on the phone and go to the game, he definitely came off injured.
Yeah,
but
they're
it doesn't matter.
Consistent with all this. So
regardless, it's an issue now, that's for sure. So, what's your thoughts about what we should be doing in midfield? Is it just a case of Georgie and Kante? Do we throw Ruben in there? How do you see that midfield going?
I don't know. Honestly, Jorginho, like Tuchel said in the press conference, he's been overplayed, overused. He's had a busy last year with Italy and Chelsea, obviously. So, I mean, I don't trust Jorginho quite as much as Con does, but obviously he's going to have to play a big part. Ruben and Kante, for me, I mean, we were discussing this earlier. I don't like that because Ruben's going to sit back, Kante goes forward. It's just no for me because that's what will happen. If you're going to play Ruben in midfield, he's got to be the one that drives forward. So I think Ruben and Jorginho makes the most sense from that perspective. But then again, I mean, Jorginho and Ruben aren't the best defensively, so there's a counter argument to that. I mean, Saul, does he ever get a look in? I mean, we'll probably mention him, but don't think he'll play. Tuchel tried Chalobah in midfield, I think, a couple of times. And what's interesting is he said that he would start getting minutes again, and you'll see that in the upcoming matches. I thought that was quite interesting because I don't know what would have changed in the centre-back position. I mean, you've got Reece James there who he's using, and also Christensen, and Asby plays there sometimes. So why would that change all of a sudden? So maybe he's going to put Chalobah in midfield off the bench. I don't know. He's going to have to do something, though, because our midfield's not as good without Kovacic, and we're going to need to find solutions. And I always maintain that the midfield is the most important part of the pitch and helps you win a lot of games. So we're going to need to find the right balance, but I don't know really if there is the right balance. That's been one of my main problems this season with all our pivots. You know, I can find a con for everything. Not con as in con, but con as in, you know, negative.
Yeah. It's find a con for everything. See, it's a whole problem anyway, because we should be fine playing like Kante and Ruben. It should be okay if our attackers were just better. But because they're not, we need a cover or Ruben from midfield to help the attack. That's the problem. If the attackers were just doing their job better, which not enough of them are, then it would be okay. And we could go with that slightly more pragmatic approach in more games. That's why with Kante and Jorginho, we dominated the Champions League last season, because our attackers on average were in better form. Plus we had Chilwell and Reece James. And on that very note, what a segue. Unbelievable. Maybe more bad news, maybe more good news, whichever way you're looking at it, I suppose, because apparently some people thought Chilwell might still play the season. Clearly not. But he is very soon, at least, we didn't get an exact time frame, but he is very soon, at least, going to join up in training with the academy, which is good, with the development squad. So it's already a start. Tuchel explained that in his press conference today, saying it's not quite the same physical intensity as the first team, of course, which is why that's easier to start him there than going straight to first team training. And the aim is for him to be in first team training by the end of the season, meaning before everybody goes on summer break and stuff, he will already be in a bit of training, which in my opinion will be fantastic news, will be good for him, for his mood before the summer, that he's back with the squad, back with the group. Obviously he's involved, but he's not out on the training pitch every day. And I think for the mood of the player, and I think the mood is very important. Just mental health is very important in regaining physical health. So if he feels better, it already makes the whole rehab process a lot easier. It's also always easier to recover from injuries in the summer than it is in winter. That's just it. That's how psychology works. So for me, that's great news that he can go into training with the development squad very soon, and then first team training before the end of the year, because that means he can do full preseason training in the summer. Whether he will be back to his best, almost certainly not. Of course not, because bad injuries like that just take a while to recover from. But having a full preseason plays such a big part in how well you can play after, because that's always the big problem. When people miss preseason, where you regain most of your fitness, that means you can play less even when you're back fit, because you don't have that base fitness, basically. So honestly, in terms of timing, this is probably the best time it could have been for such a bad injury. Obviously, still bad that he had this injury, but at least, take something positive in a really bad situation to basically restart as preseason starts. Clutch, good news in your books, or is it bad news because you somehow hoped he would still play the season?
Nah, I didn't think he'd play again. I mean, Van Dijk got hurt earlier on in the season last year with pretty much the same injury, and he never come back. ACLs are just, I mean, when ACL happens, I figure that they're done for the year. But it is good that he's starting to get back on the pitch and back on training, especially if it's just the youth team. I think getting out there and getting a feel is going to be the best thing for him. The longer or the closer that we are towards his return, the better for him. Because I don't think he'll be back to his best for quite a while. I mean, it is an ACL injury, and the position he plays in our system is a lot of running. So I do think he's a long way off of where we need him to be, but he is very important to us nonetheless. I think when we get to that point where we start able to bring him back into the first team, we will already be at a level above, because we know what he brings, those back post runs, the defensive stability that we have. So, I mean, I don't think it changes much at the moment. I do think in the summer we're going to have to look at the left back position a little bit, but it's still a huge boost for morality, especially with everybody else. Because, I mean, he's still one of the most loved players within the club between the players. So it's him starting to come back. I think you'll start seeing a little bit of a boost in everybody.
I agree completely. Pice, your thoughts on Ben Chilwell?
Yeah, I mean, it's good news that in the next few weeks he'll train with the academy. And then obviously the team at the end of the season will be good because, like you guys said, you're going to get the whole summer to train, probably be doing, fitness work and stuff. And then obviously you've got the World Cup as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be...
If he does make it, it's basically just giving him more time to be fully fit for the large majority of our season. So
exactly, yeah, it'd be really good. Still find that weird that that's in November, but whatever. Yeah, it's going to be a weird World Cup. But, yeah, I think it will... I think it's slow progression, but it's good progression as well. So yeah. I mean, it could even say it's actually fast progression, actually, when I'm thinking about it, because isn't he ahead of schedule? It just feels like it's slow progression, because we haven't heard about him for ages, and then all of a sudden you get an update, and you're like, wow, that's taken ages, but maybe it hasn't. I don't know.
Say
it's been like 6 months
after the injury.
Yeah, so, I mean...
no, after surgery, they usually say, and we obviously delayed the surgery a bit, but that helps his rehab be quicker, as we learned.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's felt like so long, because obviously they delayed the surgery, so... Yeah, but yeah, it's positive news. It's just obviously kind of scary as well, because when he gets back into training, even with the academy team, if he feels something, or you might have to stop, you know what I mean? So hopefully he has no more setbacks and he can just push on now,
100%. Con, your thoughts, Ben Chilwell? Good news that he's at least slowly but surely progressing. I mean, like Cranky Pan said, yeah, slow progression is still better than no progression. And I wouldn't even say it's slow progression. I just deem it progression. He's joining training with the development squad. That's already progression. And then when he joins the first team, even better. And like I said already, the fact that he can do preseason with the rest of the team, that is ideal.
That comment really took the words out of my mouth. Slow progression is better than no progression. It's good to see him sort of back. Be nice to see him kick a football once again. Even if it is with the youngsters in training, we might get a few cold picks of Chilwell. Plus, it keeps his mind off, outside the pitch and numerous girls, because this guy's a bit of a stud, So maybe get back to the football, Ben. I'm not jealous, I promise.
I think before he needs to get that, he needs to change the hairdo, but maybe that's just me. Here we are. Because we've already been here for 53 minutes and we've not even talked about tomorrow's game. Let's move on to that. For a second, hinted on Thomas Tuchel speaking about Trevor Chalobah as well. I just quickly rattle through it without getting the boys' thoughts on it, because there's not much thoughts to be had. Basically, Olivia Buzaglo, by the way, fair play to her for being the only person in these press conferences that asks useful questions 9 times out of 10. She asked about Trevor Chalobah and why he wasn't playing, basically, whether he had anything to do with injuries or not. And Thomas Tuchel said, no, it doesn't. It's literally just been decisions. Well, for other people, as he said it, rather than against Chalobah. Obviously, Reece James played right centre back a couple of times. Thomas Tuchel also confirming my kind of presumption or assumption from the last stream, in which I said I wouldn't be surprised if Reece is playing right centre back because it's less physical load on him, considering he's only now started about 3 or 4 games in the whole year, and it's April 19th. So, that's not a lot of starts. So, to make it a little bit physically easier, I thought that might be some of the reason. And Tuchel said that it is partly, not fully, obviously. But yeah, Chalobah hasn't been getting a look in, and he was obviously struggling a bit and wasn't quite as impressive as he was at the start of the season. But Tuchel also said, judging from training, he's back to his best and back to what he was at the start of the season. So he will get more minutes. Whether that, like Pi said, could mean midfield minutes, I hope not. But if it's minutes elsewhere and he performs, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I think we covered all of the important news. Thomas Tuchel also spoke about Romelu Lukaku, saying he lacks stiffness for some reason, which I'm like, surely that's the last thing you want him to have. He's already way too stiff all the time. Anyway, the fact that he missed that chance that Werner set up for him was because he's too stiff. If he was a bit less stiff, essentially, then he would have scored that. I also watched the analysis by ITV by Joe Cole and Ian Wright and Roy Keane, and they were like, why hesitation? And he does that every time, even when he was fully fit, by the way. Every time a low cross comes in, he's so slow to pounce on it. I'm not sure whether that's because he tries to get more power on it or whether it's, I don't know why it is, but he's always late to those. And then I criticize him, and people come obviously at me on Twitter. I'm like, oh, do you think his foot should be half a foot longer? I'm like, no, clowns. No, just react to it as the ball comes in. Don't be an idiot. Don't be Morata. Just be, anyway. But yeah, Tuchel said he's basically not fully match fit. That's why he didn't start. But he said he is an option potentially for Arsenal. So let's get to that. Arsenal tomorrow. Now, how do you think we should approach said game? Why don't I start with you, Con? Back 3. I realized I haven't done anything here yet. So this is red and white for the time being. I'll change it. But do you think it's 3-4-3 as standard? Whether it's then with a right wing back of Ruben and, slightly inside, or whether it's with a normal right wing back? That's a discussion for in a few minutes. But in general, back 3?
Yeah, bro. Back 3, 100%. I don't see why we'd go to a back 4.
Yeah, I doubt it as well, and I'm not sure if now is the time to do that either. If I'm being perfectly honest, Pice, what about you? Back three, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I don't see us going for a back four personally.
No, neither do I. And Clutch?
I do see us going to a back four, but I don't want to, if that makes sense. I would choose a back three, but I do think we will end up going into a back four. Because it helps
Can
Ruben.
you explain what makes you think that?
Because one of the players we know is they're going to have to bring in unless you want to do Jorginho and Kante, which that could theoretically happen. We're not going to put Ruben back in the midfield where we kind of seen us struggling last game. If we're going to do that, we're going to end up putting another midfielder back there, and it would probably be Jorginho lone six. And
but don't you, like judging by what we've done so far this season, I think we've played the back four more with Ruben as a 6 than Jorginho as a 6. So if anything, I think that Ruben makes it more likely that it's a 4 than less likely.
Well, that could also be it. That's why I think there's more possibilities with that. I think that is why. And I don't think we're going to play with two strikers.
It could well be. Maybe it's also in an attempt to surprise Arsenal. It might be. I'm not going to say you're totally wrong. But you said you would still go for the back three, which makes this a little bit easier, because if you said you want a back four, I'm like, well, what can I do now? We can't do 4 different formations.
You do back three. Do back three. That's what I would want.
There you go. Unlike on the weekend when it was the FA Cup, so we were debating whether it's Mendy or Kepa. In the end, it was Mendy anyway. Mendy will, of course, be back in goal. Now, let's not hold ourselves up too much. Rudiger will be the left-side centre-back. Thiago Silva will almost certainly be the central centre-back. The question is, who will be the right-sided centre-back? And why don't I start with you, Pice? Now, we have a fair few options here. We have Christensen. We have Chalobah. We have Reece James. And theoretically, we even have Azpilicueta if for some reason it's Jorginho and Kante midfield, and then Ruben plays this right wing-back role, and Tuchel still wants Aspi in the team, then that could mean Aspi plays right centre-back, because we do have to remember Reece James basically hasn't played for months and months and months, and now he started the last 2 games in a row. Whether he will start another one, I'm not sure. Do you think he should? Do you think he will? Pice?
This is interesting. I do think Reece James will start, but I don't think he'll be at right centre back.
Interesting, because I think the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I think if he plays, just because of what Tuchel said today, the fact that he said it's less physical strain, the fact that this would be his 3rd start in a row makes it, in my opinion, the only way he starts is if he's.
He also acknowledged how well he did at right wing back against Arsenal last time, which makes me think.
100%. I just think more. I think fitness is a bigger concern for Tuchel than that, but could be wrong, I guess.
Okay, all right. I'll go along with your thinking, because you could be right. So in that case, I think he either starts there or he doesn't start at all. So we need to decide between that first.
Yep.
So I'm actually going to go with Christensen. I think will probably start again.
He was good last game, to be fair.
He was
no
good.
idea why he was subbed off late on for Thiago Silva. But
yeah, and also because he's subbed off, I think maybe 10 minutes. It's quite a lot, actually, when you've, with the amount of game stuff. So, yeah, that'll be our back three. Well, that was our strongest back three. You can definitely debate that now. But, yeah, I think that's our back three.
There you go. Clutch, would you agree that it's Christensen a right centre-back? Or who would you...
No. I don't think Christensen starts there. I think he starts at left centre-back, and I think James starts at right centre-back. I think they give Rudiger a rest.
Gets rested.
I mean, he almost got hurt last game. You got to give him a rest. We have to. We cannot keep doing it.
Nah, but not again. Tuchel will never rest Rudiger unless he has to, and it's a lesser opposition.
I think
he even started against Middlesbrough. I think the only game he got rested in was against Luton.
Well, then we're going to end up being screwed when he ends up getting hurt because we're overusing him. So I would do AC, Silva, James.
The annoying thing about this lineup is that Tuchel said there's players with doubts, and he didn't say who. So it's kind of like, if we knew them...
Could be one of them. But he also said, I think they'll be okay. And that made it sound like whoever is a doubt will play anyway.
Yeah, maybe. Kind of toying with Arteta maybe as well.
Maybe.
I don't know why he got a toy with Arteta. He's terrible.
Well, he is terrible, but he's gotten way too many results against us for my liking. So, if
he's got one Pulisic hamstring to thank for his entire career.
Sorry, say again? Everybody else heard it, but I didn't.
I said he's got an Pulisic hamstring to thank for his entire career. He'd been fired if he didn't get that FA Cup.
Maybe, but it's also Arsenal, so who knows? But yeah, I will put James there at right centre back as that's what you called for. But we have AC here already, and I can't exactly put him in twice, so I leave it as such for now. But have it remembered, guys, that Clutch would have Rudiger rested and play Christensen on that side. Con, presuming you think it's also Rudiger and Thiago Silva, obviously tell me if you don't. But who do you reckon should and will be at right centre back?
Probably AC.
Is that in your head thinking of Reece James starting at right wing back, or is that in your head thinking Reece James gets rested because he's played 2 already in a row now?
That's me thinking Reece James starts at right wing back and Loftus-Cheek goes in midfield.
Might well be the case, mate. Might absolutely well be the case. I put that down already as your right wing back call. And I'll ask the other 2 boys. Pikes, when I go with you. Now, you said you think it's more likely he doesn't start or right centre back after I said it. Obviously, you can change your mind again if you want to. But I guess if it's not James, it's got to be Aspie, even though none of us are the biggest fans of it. Unless it's Ruben, I suppose.
Yeah, but no, I'm gonna go with your theory and say if he plays, it will be right centre back. So then I don't think he's gonna play now. So I personally will go with, or I think Aspie's gonna play right wing back. Which means Ruben would be in midfield.
There you go. Let me just put RJ here just to make it a little bit simpler. Oh, by the way, I think Reece James starts right centre back, by the way. I never said... I'm not sure if I would do it, but predicting, I'm going to say Reece James starts there. I'm not sure who I would play there. For me, it doesn't really matter between Reece James, Christensen and Chalobah. I'm not really that fussed, if I'm honest. I think they'll all do a reasonable job. They won't all be equally as good as each other, but I think they'll all do a reasonable job. So I'm not that bothered, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Just pick whoever is fit, essentially. If Reece James is perfectly fine to play right centre back, play him. If it's a risk, don't. And play Christensen and will be equally as fine. If you think, I don't know, Chalobah is back to his best and he deserves some minutes and play him, I'm sure that will also be fine. That's essentially my thinking. But I hate saying I want Christensen, Aspilicueta. I meant to say Reece James. I hate saying Reece James would be a right centre back just because that means I'm saying Aspie will be a right wing back, and I'm not a fan of that. Hence why I'm almost refraining from saying it. But Clutch, who's your right wing back then? Aspie?
I just thought about it, and now I have to put Aspie there, don't I? Who else are you going to put in midfield? But... I mean, maybe. I guess if you do Jorginho, Kante midfield, maybe.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I don't want to do that, though. Aspie's the captain. He'll play, so it'll be Aspie. I'm just going to do that.
I think it's most likely, if as predicted, I think it's most likely this way around as well. Clutch, I'll stick with you. I'm already putting the start of his name here. Obviously, he's played a few games in a row now, but he wasn't good against Palace, but he wasn't bad in a way that he cost us. So he probably just keeps playing. I'm not sure. At some point, he will probably need to get rested. I'm not sure when, because after this, now we play West Ham, so that's difficult. After that, we play Man United, so that's difficult. Although we only play Man United on Thursday, so for that, we should be fine again. And then we play, Everton? And so, maybe Everton is the first place where we could maybe play someone different at left wing back. But, yeah, it's probably going to have to be Alonso, right, Clutch?
Yeah, but Alonso's also one of those players that, he doesn't run fast enough or exert enough energy that you ever really need to rest him. You're pretty much going to get the same tempo from Alonso no matter when you play him, unless you played him for 2 120-minute games, which I don't ever see that happening. So, yeah, it's got to be Alonso.
There you go. Pies put in the private chat. He thinks it's going to be a 1-2 here rather than a 2-1, which might be a fair shout. Just lined it up as such for now. We will switch it around if we do agree on that in a little bit. But Con, Alonso for you as well at left wing back, or do you want to throw a rogue shout of, I don't know, well, I guess just Sola, because Saar hasn't played left wing back at all, I don't think. So it's kind of between Alonso and Sola, really.
He runs down the wing for me, and that's what I think it's going to be, bro.
What did you just say? I just didn't understand that at all.
He sung Alonso's song.
What are these words? Oh, good, sorry, mate. Fair. Anything to add to that, or shall I go to Pies?
Let's go to Pies, bro.
There you go, Pies. Alonso then, or do you want to see a Saul shout?
Oh, sorry, Mike was on mute. How many games? How many games has Alonso played in a row? Is that 2 now?
3.
Is he 3? Has he started 3 in a row?
He started every game since the Madrid home game. So he started Southampton, he started Madrid away, he started Palace.
Wow. There's such short rest in between this game as well.
Especially this one, yeah, for sure.
But I can't see Saul starting there for some reason. I just can't.
No.
I don't see it in my brain. So
the problem is, and like I just said, when can you? Because the next game is West Ham, so I don't think it's going to be anyone but Alonso. The game after that is Man United, so I don't think it's going to be anyone but Alonso. And then Everton, which maybe you could debate. We can play someone else considering their form, but
I mean, I actually don't know. Yeah, stick with Alonso, but I don't think he's going to start. You know,
I would argue playing Alonso against Everton.
That's
maybe
true.
That's also a way of saying it.
Get Lampard, get that little bit of anger out of him.
Yeah,
true. Actually, that is a fair shout. If you start Alonso against anyone, it's got to be against Lampard because he will play his best, probably. Probably true. Where the hell it is? To be fair, Kennedy's a shout. Forgot about him. Well, he played one game, and that was 60 minutes against Luton. So I doubt he's going to play any other game.
He ain't going to start against Arsenal. It's either going to be Alonso or I actually think it's either Alonso or Aspi personally. And then I think he could do like Ruben on right wing back, and then like Jorginho Kante in midfield. That could be a shout.
It's a
honestly, if we were probably predicting like his lineup and not our lineup, I'd probably say Pius is right. It'll probably end up being that.
That's something Tuchel would do, isn't it? You know, something that we just don't think of that's come to my head.
If he doesn't give a shit about himself saying Jorginho's overplayed, then yeah, I think you boys might have.
I don't know how he's been overplayed in the last like 5 games though.
I think
he's missed like 3 games.
I think he's still suffering from being overplayed before. I think that's more how he meant it.
Because like there was a period where he played like non-stop.
Get him a Gatorade.
As Tuchel said, yeah.
Get him a Gatorade. He'll be all right.
Okay, you're right. Lucas ain't over here, bro.
Maybe it's gonna be a KSI Logan Prime drink. Who knows?
Oh,
hey, that Prime is good. Don't knock on it.
Is it?
It's really good. It's actually really good. Yeah.
Fair play. All right. Shall I put Aspi here as a shout, or do you still pick Alonso though, guys, in your team?
Let's pick Alonso, but you know we're going to talk about it tomorrow night. So I won't be surprised if he throws something like what I said out. Just wouldn't be surprised at all.
I wouldn't be surprised either, actually. Now, I will also pick Alonso. Why don't I go first for midfield? Now, I didn't pick Ruben here. But the problem is I just know for an absolute fact that Kante won't be dropped for 2 games without injury. There's no chance. Meaning Kante is guaranteed in one of these 2 positions. And if I see that, I don't really want Ruben to be the other one.
I will say, to be fair, Kante, the last couple times we've seen him, yes, he's been bad, but he's also been more disciplined and has stayed back a little bit more. And he hasn't been just running up the pitch wildly. I
don't think it's... I agree with you. But I don't think Kante playing so far forward is a thing that Kante does wrong. I think it's a thing that Tuchel does wrong. Because Kante, if he's told stay back, he will stay back. But I don't think he's being told to do so. So I mean, people know I'm quite critical of Kante more so than a lot of people often, but that's not one I've ever been critical of him because I don't think he does that just out of his own remark. If someone told him stay back, he would, but he doesn't. But you make a good point. He was a bit more disciplined the last couple of times he played. As much as he made 2 mistakes against Romelu, he was more disciplined. Because I didn't put Ruben on the right, man. I'm going to put him here, but...
You know what, Laurenz, I'm just going to say, thinking about it now, is he really likely to start Loftus-Cheek in midfield in this type of game? Because I feel like he's going to see Arsenal as a big game, so I feel like it'd be Jorginho Kante, and then Ruben moves to wing-back again. The more I was thinking about
that very same thing too. I was thinking maybe it's Aspi that starts right centre-back, Ruben that starts right wing-back. And then it's neither Christensen nor James.
Yeah, I just don't know how.
Because he always wants Aspie to start, right? That makes me think right centre back.
He does always start when he's pretty much fit, no matter what. He always finds a place.
I think it just depends on who they're going to play on that left-hand side.
But we won't know
Saka,
that
then it'll be James.
Will we? So.
I think Saka's been playing on the left though more lately. I think.
When did these lineups get so
plays
hard?
on the right and Emma Smith-Rowe plays on the left, I think.
Well, normally yes, but I'm pretty sure the last 3 games Saka's been playing on the left.
They also have Martinelli as well, so I don't know.
They do have Martinelli, to be fair. So, but actually, he is right. At least according to FootMob, Saka played left of a 4-2-3-1 and Martinelli played right of that 4-2-3-1. So maybe, but I guess still, like I said, though, we won't know that for sure until the teams are out. So then, once we got to that point, we can't change it anymore, other than for injury. My days. You know what? But see, I'm not sure about Georgie Kante.
When did these lineups get so hard, by the way? I swear we used to just, we always just have a lineup in our head.
When Kovacic got injured is when it got hard. Because otherwise I'd just say Ruben and Kova, probably.
It's now so hard what to say. It's just so hard.
Now, you know what? I will actually agree with what you just said. What was it? I will play Ruben here. And I will play Aspie here. My pick. Not saying that's what Tuchel will do, but my pick is that. And then we can always take Jorginho off, or Kante theoretically, move Ruben into midfield, bring Reece on either for the wing back or for the right centre back, and then move Aspie to wing back. That's a very easy. As much as it's drastic, it just requires one substitution to actually make that happen. So I think start with it, and then once people get tired, do that. I think. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I reckon. Or it could still be Reece James here and then Aspie on that side. Might also be the case. But yeah, I'm going to pick that. Con, would you pick Ruben in midfield? I mean, you said it earlier, but is it next to Kante or is it next to Georgie?
I thought we was going to see a Kante Loftus midfield, to be fair.
In predicted 11, I'd probably agree. Yeah.
But I do sort of just listen to you guys talk. I'm sort of jumping on the ship of what you're saying about Loftus at right wing back, Georgie Kante midfield, Aspie right centre back. It makes a lot of sense there. It makes more sense than what I just said anyway.
Why did Tierney not play last game? Is he injured?
Because he's crap.
He's out for the end of the season, bro.
Is
he?
Yeah,
he's got a massive injury. It's like that Tavares scrub is playing at left back.
So then even more reason. To play Ruben on the right, just to get obviously or Reece James. But say it's not Reece James, then Ruben on the right, because whenever I see Arsenal fans talking about things, they always blame Tavares for everything.
Oh, he's awful.
It's probably awful. So that means put Ruben 1-on-1 to him and make him look like a mug.
Goal 1-0 Arsenal, Tavares, 7 minutes.
92nd minute header. Against Brighton when he equalised. I was
fucking
you know what I mean? Like it didn't. Like obviously it annoyed me that Brighton equalised anyway, but the fact that it was Denny Welbeck made it even worse. Flipping it. But there you go. So okay, so you want to jump ship slightly from your initial thoughts. So does that mean that Georgie and Kante midfield gone?
Yeah, Georgie Kante, Loftus-Cheek wing back, Aspie right centre back.
Fair dues. Fair dues. Clutch. You still sticking to Ruben in the middle, or would you also put Ruben on the side in the end?
It's tough because if I throw Ruben over on the right wing back, then I gotta either drop Reece James or Aspie, and I don't think in this game Reece James gets dropped. I don't think there's any way, but I also don't think there's any way the captain gets dropped. I wouldn't consider
it being dropped if Reece James doesn't play personally, but I see what you mean.
Yes, but I just don't see him going to the bench for this game. I can see it more for West Ham, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm going to choose.
If I can just jump in. If theoretically it was Aspie here and Reece right centre back, right? Theoretically, it would be such an easy. I mean, it would have to be like this then, I guess. But it would be such an easy mix to a 3-4-3, like so. If Reece James is the one here, it's basically we can play a 3. But Aspie will be more defensive than Ruben, and then Ruben can come, and then it's basically this with the identical players. So maybe it is Alonso that doesn't play. just to make this a possibility, I don't know.
Yeah, but he's also played Alonso in the back four without hesitation.
Oh, he has, but I'm more saying this because he doesn't want to drop Aspie. And then if you say he also doesn't want to drop Reece, I think it's more likely to drop Alonso than both, if Reece can play. And then Reece right centre back, Aspie left wing back, and Ruben right wing back would kind of work and make sense.
It could. You know what? Because I kind of like Ruben there. I'm going to put Ruben at right wing back, Reece James at right center back, Jorginho and Kante.
Okay. And then Pice.
Kante on the left, Jorginho on the right.
Yeah, true. Very good. Although, yeah, it must be like this if Ruben is right wing back. See, that only is if Ruben is proper inside, because Kante always plays on the right. Kante never plays on the left, unless this happened against Southampton. I think it was.
Yeah, but I think we're going to need. Well, I guess Alonso brings the balance, doesn't he? If Aspie starts on the left, which I don't think he will, and Alonso starts, then Jorginho on the left is fine. But if Aspie starts, it has to be Kante on the left. Has to be, because you have to give that left wide player a option. You have to have somebody helping him. You cannot have it like Real Madrid first leg.
But usually, if regardless of who's the right wing back now, it's always Kante on the right, Jorginho on the left, though.
I know, but I'm saying if I were to do it, if I were to put Aspie on the left.
I hear. Absolutely. Pice, then, have you made a final decision on what you want to do?
Not really. I'm still as lost as you guys, to be honest. No, I don't know. I'd rather honestly play Loftus-Cheek in midfield, but I just don't think he's going to do it. I don't think Kante should play, man. Honestly, I just don't see the worth in this game. I would go Jorginho and Ruben, probably Aspie at wing back, Reece at centre back, but I don't think Reece is going to play either. That's what I would do probably. I just personally I see Loftus-Cheek more starting in the West Ham game in midfield. I think Rice's physicality, I don't know. I know we don't see it as a big game.
I disagree, because if Tuchel wants Rice, he can't play Ruben against him, because Ruben will make him look like a clown.
No, just this is no offense to Ruben. I'd 100% trust him to start in midfield tomorrow. I'm just think does Tuchel yet, or does he trust him at wing back because he's played there more? Is coming on at midfield just because Kovacic got injured, or I don't know. It's so hard to see what his planning is.
I think it's hard for Ruben, especially because he proved he can play right wing back competently more than some others that we have. But also last game, he proved that he can jump into the midfield if he needs to and play competently there too.
Exactly.
Judging by Tuchel's comments, I don't even think Tuchel thought that Ruben was particularly bad whenever he's played midfield either. But who knows? I mean, we have the super chat here by Jester. I appreciate it as always, mate. Saying you could play Ruben at right wing back, Reece James at right centre back, and then put Sarr. Basically, the same idea I had with Aspie, left wing back. Do that with Malang Sarr. You could well do that too, but that still drops Aspie, and I feel that's unlikely by Thomas Tuchel to do.
And it also makes
take the whole Aspie thing out of it. Maybe go on, Clutch.
You also take zero attack on the left-hand side, except whoever's on the left attacking position.
But does Aspie have any attacking on the left?
I wouldn't put Aspie over there, personally. If he does do it, I could understand. But then you need to push whoever the midfielders has to be more attacking. But I would not put Aspie there again.
Oh, no, I wouldn't in a normal 3-4-3 either. But if the other wing-back is Ruben, and Reece James is the right centre-back and not like one of the actual centre-backs, then I think you can do it, because then you can shift it to a 4-3-3 and then it's okay. But if it's an actual 3-4-3, then I agree with you, if that makes sense. But I think Sarr might also be a shout, but Sarr hasn't played in ages, so I'm not sure how ready he is or not. I don't know. I'm not sure, if I'm being perfectly honest. But let's move on to that front three. Now, Pice would prefer it like so.
Off the ball.
In what?
I think it starts like a 3-4-3.
Well, we played like that in the last 3 games, so I'm not it could well be just like this all the time.
It seems to happen like this a lot when Mount comes back, right? If he plays, happened last game.
Yeah, for sure. But I think last game was also like this and not a 3, if I'm honest, just because of Timo and Kai. But each their own. Regardless, though, whichever way it is, Who do you think should fill these 3 position pies?
This is the interesting part because I personally think Ziyech is going to start in this game because he hasn't played a lot, and I think he's going to start as the 10. Unpopular opinion, I think Mount might get a rest this game. I think Ziyech is going to start kind of like where you've got player 10.
Mm-hmm.
If not, it will be Mount, but I feel like it's going to be Ziyech. And then Werner and Lukaku. But I would prefer Pulisic over Werner, personally.
Will be a lot of rotation, but I'm not necessarily thinking that you're wrong, if I'm honest with you. I'm not necessarily thinking that you're wrong. Whether it's this formation or this now, especially if it's Werner, I'm always more tempted to make it a 2 because Werner just doesn't work off the left. I know people claim he does, but he doesn't. So it's probably, if it's Werner, I don't want this. If it's Pulisic, I would be less opposed to this, if that makes sense. Con, what's your front 3, regardless of which exact formation they're playing?
The one I think that will start tomorrow. Werner, Mount. I'm 50-50 on Lukaku and Kai, to be honest.
From his press comments, sorry, Gon. From his press comments, I was just going to say it kind of, to me, Tuchel implied that Lukaku is going to start and then come off after 60 minutes.
I agree.
Okay.
I must have heard that wrong. I thought he was basically saying he's still not fit to start, but I might have heard that wrong.
No, he was kind of, after that, he was bigging him up, saying that he's an option for this game to start and that he will play 60 minutes. So that kind of...
I thought he just said he needs that. That he's not going to get that.
Both
I'll have
options,
to look into it again. I'll have to look into it.
You can definitely interpret those comments both of those ways. I think there's no necessary... Well, there is a right or wrong answer, but we don't know which one it is. So I think both are reasonable.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Lukaku, bro. I think Mount definitely starts this game because he's just on too good a form to drop. And he's like lungs, you know? That expression, lungs, that's Mason Mount, you know? And Werner as well, lungs as well, bro. Great form, has to start. And Kai, it was kind of, last game, so it wouldn't be the worst thing for him to get a rest.
It probably wouldn't. I agree that Kai, less so that I think Lukaku needs or should start. I think it's more that Kai needs to be rested for once. Because Kai's played... When was the last time Kai didn't start?
I don't know. I was going to say, though, as well, that Lukaku was supposed to start against Palace, but he didn't. Obviously, because he wasn't fit enough, but...
Bro, when was the last time Kai didn't start? Was the last time Kai didn't start the last time Lukaku didn't start? Mental, if that's true.
That's what I mean. Like, Havertz, we mentioned this the other day. Like, he's going to literally burn out quicker than fucking... I don't know what if he keeps starting. Oh, I love him, but, when do you play Lukaku if it's not against Arsenal, the team that he destroyed at the start of the season?
No,
and if he does bad, then we ain't got hopes in hell for him because he's against Ben White. At least he can bully him,
Yeah. Oh, he didn't start against Middlesbrough in the Cup. But other than that, his last game that he didn't start, and Luton in the Cup, probably. Yeah. The only 2 games that he hasn't started since Lukaku got dropped was the 2 FA Cup games. He started every other game since then. And started both games for Germany as well, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, give poor Kai a rest. Fair enough. Then Clutch, my bad. What's your front 3?
It's hard. I don't like anytime we drop Mount for a game or rest Mount for a game, he loses his form and we gotta get it back. It seems like resting him almost hurts him more than it helps him. But at the same time, Ziyech does need a game. Pulisic was gonna come on against Palace, and then we scored the second, and he didn't, which kind of tells me he's probably gonna start. Because Werner did look gassed at the end of last game. But do you not play Werner? Do you rest him? If Lukaku is fit, I would start Lukaku.
There you have. Sorry, Clutch. You can read it on screen now. That was the exact comment by Tuchel on Lukaku, and I agree with Pice.
Okay, then let's go Lukaku. Ziyech and Pulisic. We'll do that.
Lukaku, what? Werner and Ziyech?
No, Lukaku, Pulisic, and Ziyech. I think Werner gets a rest.
I agree that Werner gets a rest. I agree that this will be Pulisic, but I do not think that we're going to change all three. I think that would be a bit mental. Therefore, I think it's going to be Pulisic, Lukaku like so, and Mount behind them. Maybe feel for Ziyech a little bit, but I think that's what it's going to be. And this being Mason. That's what I would pick anyway with minute situation. I just don't think Werner and Lukaku together works whatsoever, personally, because then neither has a good touch. And that's awful. You could argue that Werner's touch the last few games has been equally as good as Pulisic's, to be fair to him. But still, I think on general, you need... Do not do Werner and Lukaku. I'm not a fan of that. There's probably some people out there that think that's exactly what I want. But for me, that's a big no-no. It's a tough one. Will also be very interesting. Obviously, we spoke about Arsenal. I think Arsenal will do the same thing that Palace did in matches in formation. I'm pretty confident when I say that they will do that. I mean, I could well be wrong, obviously. Bloody hell, it's a long time ago since we last played Arsenal, isn't it? I mean, last time we played against them, they played a 4, to be fair to them. But we also battered them. Obviously, we only won 2-0, but it should have been like 7. At least 3 or 4. But, yeah, it's a tough one. But I want to make one last point. The Pies also made a few minutes ago, where he said, if there's one game to start Lukaku, it's probably Arsenal. And I said that on the weekend already. For me, it's just... He doesn't have a lot of good memories playing for Chelsea. One of them is playing against Arsenal. So, and he's struggling so much for confidence. You could see it in his face after he missed that sitter against Palace. Anything that can help his confidence is needed right now. And I think it's more likely to come out against Arsenal than it is, for example, against West Ham. When last time he played, I mean... That was when me and Pies probably had our biggest live stream disagreement, where he was like, "Nah, Lukaku was okay," and I was like, "He was dog shit." Do you know what I mean? So, at least in my opinion, Lukaku was awful against West Ham, so I don't want him to play against them again. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. Who knows what it's going to be at the end of the day? It's going to be interesting. I mean, judging by what Tuchel said in hindsight of the Palace game, the reason he didn't start Ruben at right wing back was because he expected a back 4, which makes no sense to me because Real Madrid played a back 4 and you did start him there. And Southampton played a back 4 and you started Ruben at right wing back. So why was expecting Palace to play a back 4 making you think Ruben shouldn't start a wing back? Don't really understand that logic, but he will have some sort of logic behind it, I guess. Sorry, Clutch, what were you saying there?
Maybe he expected a back 3 from Madrid to keep the lead and they just didn't do it.
I don't think he did that because, I mean, everybody knew the team of Madrid the day before. Madrid just don't give a shit. They think they're so good that they don't care whether the team gets leaked the day before. It's Carlo Ancelotti. The man's busy chewing his nicotine gums and that's what he's doing. And he's happy. Do you know what I mean? That's all he cares about, not whether some team news gets leaked or not. But yeah, it's still a big game tomorrow. It's a big game. Now, Thomas Tuchel was asked one question that because top 4 is kind of sealed, but Thomas Tuchel said that he's not so sure whether he agrees with that. But I do agree that it's a problem, or hopefully not, but might be a problem to get the players motivated because, you know, they probably feel, yeah, top 4 is kind of secure, but we're not really fighting for anything. And the only really thing we're still fighting for is that FA Cup final. So I just hope that, you know, I mean, I think Tuchel was being very nice after the game and saying, oh, yeah, Palace just defended well. We just wanted to be disciplined. I didn't think we were bad. That was just Palace defending well. Sometimes I don't understand Tuchel, why he chooses to say certain things. Obviously, if he says something different to the players, fair. But if he says that after that game, then I'm not surprised why sometimes the intensity of our team isn't there. Because if you tell them that first half against Palace was acceptable, then no wonder they don't try properly in some games. Sorry to call out Tuchel here. But again, if he says something different to the team, obviously no bother. I don't like what matters what he says to the team, not what he says to the media. But yeah, if he says the same thing to the team, then I think that's bad message because that first half against Palace was nowhere near good enough. And if you play like that against Arsenal for 90 minutes, we will lose. And I know Palace beat Arsenal. I don't care. Anyway, I think that. But do you guys think it could at all be a problem, motivation, because the Premier League is kind of now?
No, it shouldn't be. I mean, you're playing against Arsenal. You're in front of your fans, albeit not as many fans. Yeah, I mean, but still, like, you know, it should be a pleasure to play for Chelsea. There's still points to to collect. We need to finish third. I don't want to finish fourth. I know people say third, fourth. Listen, I want to finish third. I don't like fourth. Third sounds better to me, so that's where I want to finish. And we need to just try and see if Liverpool might slip up. You don't know. They might focus on Champions League. Who knows? If City get away from them, we might end up finish second if we win a lot of our games. We just don't know. So we've got to put ourselves in the position where we could do that and just try our best. And to answer your point you just made, I've said this like 100,000 times. I personally believe he does get furious with the team, and he just does that to the media just so there's not stories all the time that, things are happening behind the scenes or whatever. Because, for God's sakes, he was literally you could see the veins pop out his neck when Jorginho lost the ball. Can you imagine what he thinks of the rest of the team in that first half? That was awful.
Yeah, but that's the worry, though. What if he only that moment annoyed him so much, but the rest of the first half, he's like, yeah, what can we do?
I don't see it. I think he's a very smart guy.
I think you make a good point, but after Madrid, he was publicly angry.
Yeah.
I guess we lost, and on Sunday we won, but still.
Yeah, I suppose. There's also you were 3-0 up, and then there's the emotion.
I meant the first leg. Dave was really angry.
Oh yeah, I mean the first leg. Yeah, fair enough, but
was it worse than the first half against Palace yesterday? I don't think so. I think we played better.
Well, yeah, because we conceded two goals. We conceded 2 goals.
Yeah, but because it's Real Madrid and not Palace. I think the level of performance was worse against Palace in the first half. I think.
Yeah, I kind of just thought with Palace, like we did this with Leicester as well. I kind of just thought we'd think it'd be easier than it was, which is weird because we only beat them 1-0 away. Which I don't know. Sometimes I think these players go into games and think, even if we start off slow, we'll end up winning. Don't worry. And it's kind of annoying because that's actually what ends up happening. And then when
what happens most of the time, yeah.
When we end up drawing or something, they're like, oh, we'll fight back better next game. It's like, do you not just fucking realise play good in the first half and you'll win? You know what I mean? Like, what is it? We're like second half FC. It really does my head in, especially when I go to games because it's so visible, bro. It's like ridiculous. So
I think a lot of the times we don't plan correctly. And then I think Tuchel is a fantastic manager at adapting to things. I think he knows exactly what he needs to do to change things to kind of fix it. I mean, you've seen it in that first Real Madrid game where he changed it in the second half. I mean, we would have been fine if it wasn't for a silly mistake.
But Clutch, there's no way he prepared Crystal Palace for them to perform like that. There's just no way.
No. He prepared the team to play in a back four, and I think sometimes when you have to, and I think City sometimes have the same issue. They trust the man because they know the manager is so good that they just listen to anything he says, and then if what the manager says doesn't work, because the team is so used to just doing what the manager says, when that doesn't work, they can't figure it out themselves. That's why I think, and he said it himself. They expected a back four, so that's why. Of Palace. That's why they told the players these and these areas is where we will find spaces. And then because they didn't play that formation but a different formation, we didn't find spaces in those areas and the team had no solution for it. And they needed Tuchel at halftime to find the solutions for them. And I think City have the same problem sometimes. That they, even against us, like in the Champions League, all 3 games against us last season, they was just like, whatever they tried really didn't work. And they just hoped that Pep would find a solution, but he didn't.
Yeah, and also with City, good point. They just have such ridiculous creative players that when we struggle to break down something that we're not used to, it's kind of like, I guess it does take longer to adapt to the situation. Whereas City can sometimes get away with it a lot of the time. I feel like because of the players.
Yeah, moment of brilliance, of course.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the time we don't have that, so it's bad.
Yeah. I do hear that. I will get to score predictions in a second. I will just get through the boys in terms of whether they think that motivation could be a struggle. Con, do you think it could be a struggle? Obviously, Pice makes a fair point. It shouldn't be, for sure. But do you think it could be?
I don't think so. If you can't motivate yourself to play against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge, then you should be at Chelsea Football Club, to be honest. With new owners coming in, you should want to impress, And I just don't see. We've got a strong group here, For everything we've been through this season, look where we are. It's not the worst, I think we've got a strong group here. I don't think there are problems to get motivated. And I think with the first half here, I totally agree with that. I think you guys really don't give Palace enough credit. They played this low block passing nearly every single passing lane available. You know, I don't think we was worse against Palace than we were against Madrid, Laurenz, to be fair. When you can see two goals.
Why can't you give Madrid credit for that game then? If you give Palace credit for Sunday.
Oh, because we made mistakes, individual errors, bro.
I think we got outcoached.
Defensively, 100%, we did make individual errors. So that was the difference. No individual errors. But the attacking was equally as bad.
Yeah,
but against the worst.
No, yeah, it was. But then Madrid didn't set up as negative as Palace did. Playing against low blocks is not fun. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable to watch half the time. And you have to play slow. Because, you know, if you want to...
You also make a fair point. I mean, Palace have made everyone struggle. They beat Arsenal twice, or they got points against Arsenal twice at least. They took points of City. They nearly took points of us until that Ziyech winner in the 89th minute. So, yeah, maybe you make a fair point.
Yeah, and when you're playing low blocks sometimes, I know it's boring to watch, sometimes it's slow, but you can't just play at 100 miles an hour and just give them the ball to counter, you know, and hit us in transition. You just can't do that. So you have to play slow.
Even though we played slowly, that was my issue. We played slow as shit anyway, but we still constantly gave the ball away.
Yeah. So
that's when I really get triggered. Like slow, you make a very good point. Sometimes you need to be slow. It's patience. When the opponent plays deep, that's how it is. And also, how Pai said, sometimes you just need to wait the first half because the second half, the opponent will get tired. Their focus will drop a little bit. Therefore, spaces will occur, and then you can exploit them. You just need to be patient sometimes. But when you're slow and patient, and then you give the ball away and nearly get hit on the counter, then you're doing something wrong. And I think that's what happened against Palace in the first half. But yeah, Colin, anything you wanted to add to that? No, you mute yourself. So we'll move on.
Sorry, I just wanted to make one more point. I think the reaction of the players in the second half, it shows that, you know, Tuchel has an effect on them. And it's all about reactions in football, isn't it? You know, a game of two halves. So even if we are poor in the first half majority of games, as long as the second half's better, you know. It's a chess match at times. People need to understand it's a chess match at times.
Fair play. Clutch then. Do you think it could be an issue? And maybe I should explain what exactly I mean more. When I say motivation, I don't necessarily mean, I can't be bothered type of motivation. What I mean is, especially playing against Arsenal, only play once a week compared to us, obviously. What I mean by motivation is there is a certain, and people might not understand this, but there is, especially when you play this many games, no matter how, maybe not a Lukaku because he didn't play that many minutes, or maybe not Saul if theoretically he were to start. But the other players that start pretty much every game, they have to kind of go through pain barriers every game. Not necessarily pain, my knee hurts, but pain as in all my muscles hurt because I've just been doing this every 3 days for the last 7 months. That kind of. And if you play against a team that doesn't have that struggle because they only play once a week, just go back to why we won the league under Conte, you need to work way harder and get way more out of yourself than the other team. And because top four is kind of secure, not fully, but kind of, maybe subconsciously, they're like, yeah, we got this. That's the thing I worry about. Not that they can't be bothered, but that we end up like against Madrid, where that edge that we need to be good, that edge of intensity isn't there. That's the part I worry about. Not necessarily that they can't be bothered. Maybe I shouldn't have used the word motivation, but just that little edge of intensity will miss because they're too comfortable. I hope not, and I hope that the opponent being Arsenal is enough to stop that from happening. But again, because the opponent is Arsenal, they only play once a week, we almost need it more than usually. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about, Clash. Do you see what I mean?
You're talking about that need, that desire or ability to suffer on the pitch, to find that extra motivation.
But not just suffer in defense, just suffer by pressing, by running, by intensity.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying there, but I also think a lot of these players' spots aren't guaranteed. So for me, I think that alone is motivation to whenever you step out there, you need to be at your top form. That alone should be your motivation. Do you want to have a career at Chelsea? Do you want to keep playing for the club? If not, I could see it. Whatever. That's for you in the summer. That's how you feel. But I feel like a lot of these players want to be here. And I think besides like 3 people, spots are not guaranteed. So you have to be willing to go out there and throw it out on the line to fight for your position. So I don't think motivation should be lacking in anyone. So you have to go out there and give it your all whenever you're given the opportunity. I'm talking about your Pulisic, your Ziyech's. your Rubens. I mean, that's one of the things Ruben's been doing quite well lately is he's willing to go out there and suffer to do the things that he needs to do. You need to think about those kind of players. Those are the kind of players that when you show up, you have to be willing to give it all. So I don't think there should be a problem. Will there be? It's Chelsea. We have done that before, but no, there should not be a problem for anyone.
I hear that. Just lastly, before I get to what you put in the private chat, let's do score predictions. What do you reckon, Clutch?
2-0 Chelsea.
Con, score prediction from yourself?
I'm going to go with a 2-0 Chelsea.
Fair play. And Pice? Going to make it a full house of 2-0 or something different?
1-1.
Oh, my days. I didn't realize I see you daily in the house. No, I'm joking. Yeah. I'm going to say 2-1. I hope 2-0 because I like 2-0 as a result. But I think 2-1. What I want to highlight, though, is an exclusive, apparently, by Nisar Kinsella of course, goal.com, if you don't know him. By the way, even though he might not necessarily always be the best and that has the biggest stories, Nizar is personally my... Simon Johnson, also because I've spoken to him personally, and Liam Toomey. But maybe, yeah, but I like Nizar anyway. I just feel like he's more one of us rather than like one that's above as a journalist, that sees himself as better. And I think he's more one of us. I like this anyway. Big up him. But anyway, his exclusive, as you can see on screen, says Stephen Pagliuca met with Chelsea supporters groups over the weekend, who, of course, have said until last week that they are still waiting to get in contact with him. Now they have, apparently. Reassured them on ambition and track record at other clubs. He declined to bid for the Denver Broncos, which actually Todd Bowley has done, alongside Harris, who is part of the Martin Broughton bid, which, of course, is also shortlisted for Chelsea. Now, Pice, I mean... basically just great that they met. Brilliant. But can you inform us or also give us a little bit of your opinion about this, the fact that Bowley is apparently in the race for the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, I think just wants to expand his portfolio, I reckon. It's going to be interesting to see where he's getting all this money from. Because, I mean, the Denver Broncos it's valued at billions of pounds like Chelsea. So, yeah, that one's going to be interesting. Maybe it's also like a backup plan. I heard a few people say that in case he doesn't get Chelsea, but that would be a red flag for me. But yeah, I think, did someone say something like, unlike Chelsea, like the Denver Broncos, where are they NFL or something? Like Clutch, are they NFL?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
they're my NFL team.
I'm pretty sure someone said that unlike Chelsea, they could be like kind of like debt financed kind of thing. So maybe I don't know. Like I'm just saying, he could do it with that route with them. But
could you at all see this as because the Denver Broncos sale is now apparently happening? Could you see it as a case of Bowley making sure he's involved just in case he doesn't get Chelsea and then is left behind for the Broncos like if he doesn't get Chelsea?
Yeah,
and then if he gets Chelsea, he pulls out of the Broncos thing. Could that be a case, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I was reading the article and it's like he's made like a non-binding bid, so it's not like I don't think it's like a guarantee, right? Is it non-binding? I think it's not like other bids, I'm pretty sure.
There you go. Fair play. But otherwise, not much to say, just other than me laughing at this comment, because I've certainly been there. As Martin Tyler once said in FIFA, if one team can score 4 in one half, the other team can too. I was getting smacked. I've certainly been there, mate. But hey, here we are. Anyone that wants to add something to this? I mean, Clutch, obviously, you said it's your NFL team, so maybe you've heard more about this Denver Broncos deal and can say or maybe inform us about something we are not aware of.
I didn't know it was progressing that quickly. I mean, I don't watch as much with the Broncos as I do Chelsea.
Also, their season is much shorter and it's off season now, isn't it? So
yeah, and for me, the ownership of the Broncos currently, especially with John Elway as their director, has been really terrible. So I've been like less having my hopes up for them. So I just kind of like sit back and I don't even pay attention. But that is my team. So if Bowley doesn't get Chelsea, I'm probably going to get him in Denver. So one way or another, I get Bowley.
Fair enough. And Con, what have you thought on this? I mean, is Stephen Pagliuca this whole... I hinted on it earlier. If UEFA allow us to make this happen, the fact that we could have basically an owner that also owns a Serie A team, a top half Serie A team. Of course, they were in the Champions League for a few seasons in a row now, but are currently 8th in Serie A. They're still a top team. Very good team. Great to watch. Great manager. And we've already loaned multiple players there. Not players that we ever got back in the end, because Pasalic, they in the end signed him. And was there another player we had on loan there? But anyway, Pasalic was there, or is there still, but then they signed him properly from us permanently. But in general, if we have a team of that level to just loan players to, or, like, let's not lie to ourselves, this new loan rule is coming. That means outside of England, only 6 over 21-year-old loans. If it's Atalanta and we kind of half own them, well, our owner owns them, then we can just sell players to them and then just buy them back for the same price, essentially. And that's why go around those loan rules. So we could use that, I suppose.
Yeah, this bit is a weird one, because when I first saw it, I was pretty impressed. Like, I did some sort of research into Pagliuca. I can't say his name, but I was impressed because I like Atlanta. I do. I like the manager. I like their style of football. I like how he's kind of backed, and they do spend. They nearly spent 100 mil this summer, which isn't bad at all for a team like them.
How small a club in terms of financially and size they are is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. And Syria as well, the revenue there isn't nowhere near Premier League, so
with the Rona as well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so like it's interesting. I don't really, maybe Todd was, because I've seen more about him, is probably the one in my head I think would be the best solution. But like, I'm not opposed to him either. I'm happy it's not the Ricketts in it. But and just to go back on that binding thing, yes, Pi, it's non-binding, so it isn't enforced by law, meaning that if he wanted to pull out, he could do without no legal sort of technicalities there. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. That is not a non-binding bid.
It's interesting though that is named that way because because that means the Ricketts bid was non-binding as well. Otherwise, they couldn't have pulled out. But no one ever said that was non-binding. So that's interesting. Not that it would have changed anything. Because I guess until it's done, like it's kind of like going into a shop and saying, "Yeah, I'm interested in this jacket," and you're like talking to the saleswoman or salesman, and you're like, "Yeah, I like this," and or shoes, right? Do you have the shoes in my size? And then you're looking at them, and then you're like, "Nah, actually, I'm gone." They're not like, "Oh, you have to pay anyway." So that's kind of how I saw the whole Ricketts thing. But yes, like Jester said, Zabacosta was also there on loan. And then in the end, no, I think they just signed him permanently and he was on loan elsewhere. I think he only went to Atalanta when they signed him permanently. But regardless, kind of agree with what Con just said. Bowley is first choice in my head. But Pagliuca is probably my second choice. I say probably. He's definitely my second choice because we know fuck all about Martin Broughton. And we've been in this shortlist thing for now 2 months or whatever. And we still don't know anything about it.
Like, you're really good with this stuff. Have you heard anything about that third bid? Because I generally have not heard anything, mate, at all.
So he's being backed by some Colombian billionaire, I believe, who's also involved in like the beer industry, which is kind of strange.
We need better beer at Stamford Bridge anyway. So
Mark Klein, let me just. Oh yeah, Alejandro Santo Domingo is backing the consortium led by Sir Martin Broughton, 2.5 billion net worth. I think he's got a lot of investors, which some aren't named. The one thing that worries me is he's got Vivek Ranadive, who is the owner of like the worst basketball team in the world, supposedly. So yeah, I don't really want him. I mean, he's a Chelsea fan for over 60 years, so in some sense, it could be good. And also,
Khan's got a ghost in his room. Khan's on Ghost Adventure.
My dog's howling. Sorry.
I thought you were singing. That's mental.
No, my dog's howling.
Honestly, I was convinced you just started singing the Champions League anthem.
I just figured there was a ghost behind it going.
The dog's howling. Sorry, she's on the heat and she's just acting up. I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
What I was going to say was, yeah, he did a Talk Sport interview about 3 weeks ago, and he said no one wants to be the team that takes over Roman Abramovich, one of the most successful teams, under his ownership, and turn it into mediocrity. So, I mean, that's kind of a general statement, but I thought that was quite interesting. And he said that he's got vision for Chelsea. They respect the FFP rules. They wouldn't overspend. Which, I mean, well, who would overspend the FFP rules? You idiot! Because they'd be banned anyway if they did that. Yeah. So I was kind of thinking, well, that's obvious, but I don't know. Like you guys said, we don't really know enough about him. It's all been kind of really Bowley, and then recently Pagliuca. Obviously, Sir Martin Broughton's met with supporter groups. Pagliuca's just done it as it's just come out. I think Simon Johnson said as well on the Athletic podcast that Sir Martin Broughton's kind of working behind the scenes, talking to Rain more than talking to the media. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it isn't Bowley who wins. It's going to be interesting.
It will definitely be interesting, but I must still hope it's going to be Todd Bowley. And then I also hope he doesn't buy the Denver Broncos. If I'm honest, I would be a bit annoyed if he buys us, and then in 2 months' time, it also we hear that he bought the Denver Broncos. I'm like, well, how much do you care then? But who's to say? We shouldn't judge and criticize too early. Sorry, Clutch. Say again.
He would then control my life if he had both.
There you go. Hey, but he could also make your life tenfold better. But it could also make it miserable, I suppose. So there's always that side of the story as well. And this has turned out to be another way longer stream than I anticipated. But here we are. There was just a lot to get through today, ladies and gentlemen. Big shout out to all 3 of my guests. Their links are down in the description. Pice's website, chelseafc365.com, Con's Twitter, and Clutch's Twitter. Please do follow them both and subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. I would love to get there by the end of the season. We're about 1,200 and a bit away. So possible. But you need to get involved. So get below, hit that big red subscribe button and get subscribed. If you haven't already, smash the like button as well, because that helps push these streams/videos out to more people. So on your way out, click that like button, just one click for a button, doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. And I would very much appreciate it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the shelves, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.